Hey guys, this is John and I'm playing JustKid in the 5 minute pool on ICC. Okay, I've played JustKid many times. This is Ben. He is a FIDE master, good player. Played him on one of the live streams recently too. Let's open with C4 and see what happens. I don't know what he plays against C4. Let's play G3, go for a Fianchetto. I was not completely happy with my performance yesterday in that game against the Grandmaster, so let's see if we can improve today. Just playing a Symmetrical English. Okay, let's go knight f3. And if knight f6, I think I'll play d4, the main line. Black does not have to play knight f6, obviously. There's other moves. Plays e5, okay. So I'm going to go for this maneuver of the knight. Typical maneuver for this line. Knight c2 to e3, you try to send the knight into d5. Takes many tempi, but it's worth it for that d5 control. Otherwise, black might get the opportunity to play pawn d5 themselves, so it's a good idea to do this. I think I can play this anyhow. If rook b8, a4. Just stop black from playing b5. This position looks like a tabia, meaning it's almost certainly been played before. I'm going to play d3, just hold off for a moment on sending the knight in. Yeah, I think now's a good time to play this. So the position, I think you could argue, is slightly more comfortable for white. Black has played solid, but when black adopts this structure with pawns on c5, d6, e5, that d5 square is a long-term weakness. So, okay, queen d7. So black might want to play bishop h3 and try to trade my light score bishop. Hence, I'm thinking about rook e1 as a way to dissuade black from doing that. Or at least be able to play bishop h1 if bishop h3 is played. I'm also looking at stuff like bishop h6, which is a weird move, but now let's just play rook e1. Looks simple. King h8. That's probably directed against knight f6. I'd be willing to bet. Okay, now I think I'm going to play this move, which looks odd, but in this line I've found that it's helpful to try to induce black to play f6, which can block their dark square bishop. So if f6, I'm going to pull the bishop back to d2. Mini maneuver. He goes f5. Okay, so he might be trying to prove that my bishop is just not that useful out here. Okay. So I wonder if the idea is f4 after this. Very well could be. I think I'm going to play rook b1, playing around with the idea of b4. Also, if black plays h6, I can retreat the bishop to d2. I can also maybe take on e7. There's some scenarios where white might want to swap off two sets of minor pieces and then jump the knight in. So yeah, now I get to see if I want to do that. That would certainly be the most straightforward way to play the position. Trade, trade, trade. Maybe b4 at the end. Yeah, actually, I think I'm going to go for that. It's a decent way to play in Blitz, I think, especially. So let's play this now. Maybe though, maybe after takes, rook takes, black can play d5. I might have underestimated d5. I guess I have queen b3 there. It's not so clear. Just trying to do something on the queen side before black gets a chance to start rolling these king side pawns, because you can see he's pretty aggressively placed in the center and on the king side. Let's pre-move this. Also, my knight on c3 is undefended, so before playing b4, I had to consider the e4 move, but I think there's a decent chance he'll play d5. He usually likes to play pretty active, from what I've seen. So d5, let's say queen b3, swap on c4. Yeah, I get a slightly weak c-pawn, but I get nice pressure against b7 to compensate. Also, the diagonal for this bishop might be open. It's probably not a bad trade for me. Now e4. Okay. Yeah, good move, I think. Opens his bishop. thinking e3 is what I should do. e3, bishop f1 maybe. Yeah, let's do that. I just want to stop him from playing e3 or even f4. I'm a little vulnerable, though, on the dark squares. Yeah, e4 was a good move. I'm thinking now I might have to put my bishop on f1 to safeguard this pawn. Knight d5, maybe? Knight d5, take, pawn takes. Yeah, let's do that. So offering to go into an opposite color bishop position, but one where I'm hoping that I have a slight initiative. I like my time management so far in this game too. It's like a sentence I've never said before. I like how I'm handling the clock. So now there's 3 attackers on d5. I could put another defender on it, just rook d1. But I'm thinking of some other stuff too. Like knight f4, for instance. But rook d1 seems sensible as well. I don't know, actually. Knight f4 makes a good deal of sense. Let's play knight f4. Yeah, just attack that bishop, see where it goes. Hate to withdraw my knight from that d5 square, but it was hit several times. I need to get this piece working. This is my worst piece right now. The rook on e1 also isn't doing much, but I can send it to b1 easily. Like, this bishop will take some work to get out. Okay, maybe think about a5. He's going to pull the bishop back. Okay. It seems a little passive. Maybe rook b6 now? Rook b6, hit this pawn. Also, I can play that bishop f1 move. Rook b6, g5. I can give a check, but that doesn't appear to do much. I think I'm just going to go right over here first. Stay flexible. Just put the rook on a good file. Crank up the pressure on b7. Keep rook b6 in mind. Still possible to play that move. One idea with rook b6 might be to play rook takes a6 and try to take advantage of this undefended rook on b8. Okay, so he's offering to trade everything here. Just chop, chop, chop. Yeah, I think I gotta go for it. Let's play this at the very end. It does have rook a5. I'm hoping that his pawns are a little weaker than mine. That is my big hope. This rook looks a little awkward. Maybe I can play this move now. This seems kind of annoying for him. Let's go here. So attack the e4 pawn. Let's do this. I'm going to go here now. Not sure what that move does exactly, but it seems like it could be helpful. Unfortunately, now it looks like it could be a time scramble. So I'm going to try to go after this guy. Let's go here. I know he can take on f2. Ooh, okay. So now I get some chances, perhaps. Let's go here. Fortunately, I might get flagged in this position. I'll offer him a draw. See if he takes it. Okay. Yeah, so Ben agreed to draw right there, which was nice of him because admittedly I was lower on time at that point. So he says GG. Yeah, so at the very end, I think I had a little something, but as you could see, the clock was becoming just as big of a factor, if not more, than the board. But I was liking my opposite color bishop position. I think the move G4 was important. So getting in G4 was helpful because that breaks up the F5/E4 structure. I mean, objectively, the position might still be drawn, but I guess black had some issues defending these weak pawns. Overall, it looked like a pretty well-played game by both sides. Probably when I played B4 way back here, I should have considered the line with D5 a bit more closely. I didn't see it until right after I had played it. So that's just another indication, like this mantra I repeat over and over to you guys about undefended pieces, like how you have to have a hyper-awareness of that. Because with B4 and then recapturing the pawn after black takes on B4, I have two undefended pieces, knight on C3 and rook on B4, that I just created. So I have to be aware of ways that black can try to exploit that, like with D5 or E4. Just kind of scrolling through, I think this was kind of the critical stage of the game right about here. Looks to me like he played pretty well. Bishop C8 struck me as a passive move, but I didn't see a good way to take advantage of that. I considered rook B6, but after G5, I'm not sure the knight has any great square to go to. I didn't think the check on G6 amounted to much. Maybe I can do something similar to what I did in the game, like rook B6, G5, knight G6 check, king moves, and then G4, trying to destabilize E4, but it looks kind of sketchy. I don't like my coordination there. So if you play the Symmetrical English, I think this game will interest you because this line is popular. I played it for both sides. You know, as black, you do have to worry about that chronic weakness on D5, but black's structure is reliable with the two knights defending each other. Good play with the pawns, B5 breaks, potential for play on the king side with that pawn storm. This was also another major decision right here, deciding whether to take on E7 or not, or just drop the bishop back to D2. I was a little worried that after bishop D2, black would start storming me, G5, F4, those type of moves. And I think with my rook on E1, I may not be in as good of a position to defend against that as I normally would with the rook on F1. Because with the rook on F1, that gives white more of a reason to play F4 to try to meet black's pawn storm. And with the rook on E1, somehow it just seems more suspicious. And if I can't play B4 here, I doubt that white has anything. Knight D5 doesn't look like much. I mean, if I play knight D5 here, bishop takes D5, bishop takes D5. Yeah, for the moment I have a slightly better bishop, but for instance, black could play A5 there and shut down any attempt by me to play B4 and open the position. And I don't think I have anything. I'd love to trade the light square bishops. Strategically speaking, what white would love to here is swap the light square bishops off the board and install a perma knight on D5, a permanently outposted knight that couldn't be exchanged by black's dark square bishop, because it's on the wrong color. But logistically, that's just not really possible. If bishop D5, black can move the bishop away. Bishop D7, for instance. So I'll use the computer to check. Definitely the middle game, like right around here. We'll see what its evaluation of B4 is. I'm also kind of curious about, yeah, like maybe a position right around here, right before I decided to trade down. Rook takes B7. I think after all these trades, it should just be a draw. Maybe white has a tiny initiative, but I don't think it's much. The only reason I say that, again, is because of the fragility of black's pawn structure, like F5, E4. The slight weakness on A6. Black's king is a little more open than mine, but these opposite color bishop positions, it's so tough. Even with that, that's probably not enough for white to get anything serious. Yeah, and the time scramble was probably not worth really analyzing in any great depth. It'd be nice if I could play F4 checkmate right here, but that fails for a couple reasons. A, it's illegal, and B, black could even play en passant if it was somehow illegal. Illegal, that is. And like I said, nice of Ben not to flag me there, because he almost certainly could have. Okay, let's add the engine in. Yeah, reliable line for black. An alternative way to play this system for white is actually to do what black did, just in reverse. So e4 and knight ge2, the so-called Boffinic setup, Boffinic English. So it's entirely possible that white could adopt a similar setup, but you do surrender control over d4 in playing this way. You get a lot of control over d5, you have decent pawn play, but giving up that d4 weakness has never really appealed to me as white. You can also play e3, by the way. You can play e3 and knight ge2 and maybe try to have best of both worlds, like develop your knight to the e2 square, not block your bishop, but not give away d4 in the process. In fact, white would be trying to play d4 in that type of setup. So knight f3, e5. Little move order nuance here. So I used to write for this website, chesspublishing.com, which is an opening theory website, and I annotated some games in this line. And I did some research in this when I used to write, because I used to write for the flank opening section. So I was doing a lot of work on the English and such. And one nuance I picked up on is that if white plays d3 first in this position, it gives black a chance to try to achieve the d5 break. And the way that black can do that is to play d6. And now as soon as white initiates this long maneuver of the knight into d5, black pounces. And by playing bishop e6, knight c2, and now d5, black gets in the d5 break one move sooner than they would if white hadn't played d3. So by foregoing the d3 move for now and playing knight e1 immediately, the timing works in white's favor, because if black does this now, d6, knight c2, bishop e6, knight e3, white's knight is just in time. You can see it defends c4 and it controls d5. And d5 will not work for black because black has 1, 2, 3 defenders of that square, but I have 1, 2, 3, 4 attackers there. So by taking, black just loses material. So knight e1, castles. Yeah, bring the knight around. This is all standard. Rook b8. So this signals black's intention to try to hit my c-pawn. So white has to play a4. Now, when white plays a4, that's a similar concession to what black is making in the center. I think that's worth pointing out, right? So the d5 square is a problem for black because black has pawns side by side on c5 and e5. So there's no pawn that can dispute a white piece that lands on d5. Likewise for me, now that I played a4, I've got these two pawns side by side. That square right in between, the b4 square, is a weak square for me. That could be an outpost for black in the future. If you're not already thinking in terms of squares like that, that can be a useful pattern to remember. So two pawns separated by a file, that can be a weakness that your opponent can exploit by putting a piece right in between those pawns. So a4, d6, d3, bishop here, jump my knight in. Yeah, queen d7. So rook e1 was intended so that after bishop h3, I can play this bishop h1 move and keep my bishop, right? Because if I don't play rook e1 and that happens, let's say bishop d2 were played, then black could maybe profit from this exchange of light square bishops. This is one of my best pieces on this diagonal. So that's why I did that. Yeah, and then king h8, and I played this bishop g5 move, f5. I see that the computer is suggesting a5 in a couple scenarios. Yeah, I thought about that move. Advance and try to clamp down on the b6 square. I was just a little worried that the a5 pawn would become a weakness. I don't like the fact that my rook has to babysit it for now. So that's a little double-edged. Like I can't play rook b1 anymore followed by b4, but I do recognize that white gains enhanced control over b6 this way. Computer wants me to play e4 here. Just looks ugly to me. Again, there's nothing stopping black's knight from coming into d4 eventually in this case. So rook b1, h6. Now I took on e7. Yeah, so it's between taking on e7 and just dropping the bishop back to d2 and just playing the position, maybe still with b4 to come, but with my bishop on board. I just didn't want to lose any time. I thought that black would immediately strike here and start pushing pawns. And in a way, it's always nicer to attack the opponent's king as opposed to an area of the board. So here, black is pushing on the king side, and my king is in the line of fire. That's the ultimate target. Whereas if I'm playing b4 and pushing on the queen side, at best, I'm just conquering like an area of the board, right? The queen side. Black's king is not over there. There's entire openings set up around this concept. Like the King's Indian defense for black, I think one of the major reasons for its popularity is that even though black cedes all of this central space, white is only attacking on the queen side in the main lines of the king's Indian, whereas black is going like right for that white king. So psychologically, that can be difficult to deal with if you're the side who's getting attacked. So I swap down here. So this was one of the positions right about here that I was curious about. So I went ahead and played b4, but yeah, I just don't think I really have much here. Computer says e3 is better. So kind of a temporizing move. Maybe discourages f4. I bet if f4 I can trade, and then this could be a target. So, yeah. I wouldn't suspect that white has anything to write home about in this position. Black does have the bishop pair. Yes, d5 is still weak, but if I have to play e3, yeah, I don't think it's much of anything. g5 is recommended. Black will start to create problems for me on the king side. So b4, but b4 does create those two undefended pieces. Now, I think he correctly plays d5. Queen b3. So better is rook b6. So that does not lose a pawn, I guess, because after all this, the pawn on g6 hangs. Or is there something else I'm not seeing? Here, the engine wants to play bishop d5. That's not a line I'm going to see in Blitz. Black takes the pawn and you don't recapture it. You actually just play this move instead. So I guess the idea there is if knight takes, hitting the queen, the rook is still attacking g6, and also maybe I can regain the pawn next move. Even this seems kind of unclear to me, but yeah, that's just not a line that's really going to occur to me in a Blitz game. So I think I played like the human move, queen b3, take and take. So I have nice pressure on b7. I'm hitting it 3 times, but this next move was excellent by Ben, e4. So block out my light square bishop, open his dark square bishop. Very good. I played e3. This might be excessively cautious. I just didn't want to give black a chance to play e3 or even f4 in the future. Computer says just play rook b1 right away. Okay. So e3, rook d8, queen c5 also possible, yeah. On queen c5, I was envisioning having to play bishop f1 to defend this pawn and then hopefully attack b7, although the constant attack on my knight on c3 will keep my rook takes b7 aspirations in check. So rook d8, I jump the knight in. Ooh, did we miss a tactic here? Because notice that the engine just is screaming now that rook takes d5 is a good move. And I think I see why. So rook takes d5, pawn takes d5. It must be bishop takes d5. Attacking the queen, trying to deflect the queen away from guarding the rook on b4. Very interesting. Yeah, that escaped my attention, as I'm sure it did for him too, because he didn't play it. Let's see that. It's nifty. So take, take, take. And if I take here, queen takes b4 and black has won a pawn. Looks like a nice position for black. Yeah, solid extra pawn. This is under attack. Maybe some chances for white because, again, it still is opposite color bishops, even with major pieces on board. And I guess after bishop takes d5, if I run away somewhere, there's problems involving this bishop. So let's say queen b1, because we got to run away somewhere that also defends the rook if we're not going to take the bishop. That runs into bishop c3, so attacking both of the rooks. And I'm guessing on queen a3, bishop f8 will be the issue. Or will it? I can always check against that. Queen a3, what will happen? Maybe on queen a3, black just has good control of the position and can play something like rook c8. a5, white has rook b3. But then, okay, queen a3, a5, rook b3, queen takes a3, rook takes a3, bishop b2. And those bishops trap the white rook. Black wins the exchange back. I think that checks out. Queen a3, a5. Rook's got to move somewhere that also defends the queen. Swap, bishop b2. Yeah, and black's going to win the exchange. So see what I did right there? That's just, I can't stress how important that is. When I saw that queen a3 was a possibility, and then I had that moment where I wasn't sure how black was going to refute it, it's so tempting just to put the move in and see what the computer's going to say. But you can't do that. You got to challenge yourself. And if you're really trying to get better, ask yourself, well, it's not about what the computer can see, because the computer's going to give you the right answer. It's about what you can see. And let's verify if that calculation is correct. Queen a3, a5. Yeah, hit the rook. The only safe square for the rook that doesn't lose the queen is here, attacking the undefended queen. But then after trade, look at the power of these bishops. Bishop b2. That's nice. Yeah, this bishop taking away a2 and b3. There's just no safe squares for the white rook. Got to play it like this, or rook d3. That's kind of funny. Take and then take here and pray that we can make a draw somehow. Down a pawn. So some cool continuations right there. So rook takes d5 was a good opportunity for black. It also makes me wonder if black could do something similar with bishop takes, pawn takes, and then rook takes, but maybe that's less accurate. So white can play rook takes e4. Yeah, see, even right there, I probably should have stopped myself and said, okay, well, what happens in the case of this line? I was just like on autopilot clicking through the moves, but that shows you how easy it is to just get absorbed into what the computer is saying. So yeah, rook takes e4 is a nice move. Pawn takes and then take here. And I suppose rook takes e4 is not possible in the other line because the bishop is guarding it, right? So if rook takes d5, pawn takes d5, bishop takes, there's no saving move like that because bishop takes. And white's down a piece. Okay, so this is all appropriate analysis for the position, but black didn't take on d5. Black played queen f7. And then I played knight f4. Yeah, a5. I was wondering about a5 on a couple occasions. Thinking black might go for this. Take. Rook d3. Definitely missed that move. Yeah, rook d3. Hitting the queen. Yep, for sure overlooked that. And after the queen moves, black is safe to take here because I can't take the rook on d8. Ooh, that is nice. So, looks like a5 would have been good because if knight takes e6 runs into rook d3, that means I have to just move this rook. So, like rook here, allowing takes. And that doesn't seem so good. Can I get away with that? Probably not because of queen takes g6. Yeah. Take and take. And white will be down material. If rook takes, then bishop takes here. Black's up a bishop. And if this, black is up a rook. So the tactics are favoring black a lot in this open position, but they aren't easy to work out either. A lot of calculation required. So it looks like bishop c8 was a mistake by him. And I played rook b8. Now white is back in the driver's seat. g5, kick the knight, knight d5. Yeah, bishop back here. Now I took on b7, and here's where we got this liquidation. Computer says that's the best line, so even here there might not be much. Take, take, take. All forced. So this all happens. And I transfer the bishop immediately. Thought I would have to play bishop f1 because black can even check me and force me to play that move. Computer kind of likes rook a7 a bit more, but I don't see what's stopping black from playing a5 in that case. Black can also play a5 against bishop f1, but he chose rook a5. Now rook b4. Yeah, and maybe here, if black wants to be accurate, I mean, I don't know how big of a threat g4 is, but it might be worth preventing just by playing this and just try to lock down my pawn structure. You see how both sides can attempt to put pawns on the same color as the opponent's bishop? That's usually what you want to do when your opponent has one bishop remaining. You try to arrange your pawns on the same color as that bishop. It's a common fallacy that you might want to arrange your pawns on the opposite color of your opponent's bishop, because you might reason that, well, if I do that, then my opponent's bishop can't attack those pawns. But it's usually the other way around. You usually want to arrange your pawns protected, so keeping them protected in a way that takes away squares from your opponent's bishop. If you put them all on the opposite color square of the bishop, then you just cede all this territory. It's just like open diagonals galore. So g4 definitely comes to mind because that locks the structure and stops white from playing g4. Very likely this is going to be a draw. But black did this, and I am happy to have found g4, but, you know, with this little of time and the position still being drawish, like I said, it's probably not much. I'm just trying to win the e4 pawn now. Bishop g2. These moves took me a lot of time. He handled his clock better than I did in the last half of the game. Yeah, h3, probably not a great move. whatever I have to do here to milk my advantage is pretty subtle, I think. So, and even with best play, it may not succeed. And the rest was pretty much a time scramble. I was able to pick up the g4 pawn, but to no avail. Yeah, I did notice that black had bishop takes f2 here, deflecting my king away from guarding the bishop, but didn't really know what to do about it in time pressure. Let me just see if there's any chance I had to win here at the end. I doubt it. I was hoping there'd be like some sort of mating net, but like rook h8 is always just met by king g7. Don't think there is. Yeah. So, interesting game. I think it was pretty well played. I think those tactics in the middle game are of some instructional value. Makes for a good calculation position, like right about here. The consequences of rook takes d5, what can happen there. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed that. Also, if you play the Symmetrical English, you probably picked up some ideas from this or reinforced some ideas, like with this knight maneuver of the knight coming around to d5. So thanks for the game, Ben, and I will be back with another video very soon. Hope everyone is having a great week, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.